At the heart of it all, Lady Mary steps into a role of command. Widowed but unbroken, she manages the estate with precision and resolve. Suitors circle her: Lord Gillingham, Charles Blake, Henry Talbot. But Mary's heart is not easily swayed. She is cautious, sharper than before, determined to guard both her independence and her family's legacy. Her story becomes less about romance and more about strength, about what it means to lead in an age where women are no longer expected to remain in the shadows. Lady Edith's secret can no longer be kept hidden. Her daughter, born in secrecy and shame, is brought closer to Downton. What began as scandal transforms into courage, as Edith learns to claim her right to love and motherhood, even if society sneers. Her quiet rebellion mirrors the broader changes stirring across England. Rules that once bound women are beginning to loosen. Below stairs, the war between loyalty and suspicion deepens. Anna and Bates, once symbols of devotion, now live under the shadow of crime. Their marriage is tested by fear and accusation, as whispers of murder circle them like vultures. Yet through every trial, their bond refuses to break. A reminder that love can endure even the darkest suspicion. And then there is Tom Branson, the chauffeur turned son-in-law, caught between two worlds. His loyalty to the Crawleys remains strong, but his heart belongs to a more modern future. Tom becomes the voice of change within Downton, reminding the family that they cannot stand still while the world rushes ahead. Season 5 is a season of pressure. The Crawleys are forced to confront politics, scandal, and the unstoppable tide of modern life. Every decision feels like a test: adapt or be left behind. By its end, Downton stands not as a relic, but as a battleground where tradition and progress collide, and where the future is knocking at the door. The story of Downton Abbey reaches its last act, and the house feels it. The walls have seen war, death, scandal, and love, but now they prepare for something quieter: an ending. The grand era of estates like Downton is fading, yet the people within are determined to leave with dignity, not defeat. Lady Mary, once burdened by grief, finds her balance at last. Stronger, wiser, and braver, she dares to open her heart again, this time to Henry Talbot, a man whose passion for racing cars speaks of a future more modern than aristocratic. Her marriage is less about security and more about choice, an act of courage in a world where women are learning to choose their own destinies. For Lady Edith, long overlooked and underestimated, the final season delivers long-awaited justice. Her years of heartbreak and secrecy give way to triumph when she marries Bertie Pelham. No longer the forgotten Crawley sister, Edith becomes a marchioness, rising above every insult, every rejection. Her victory feels not only personal but symbolic, proof that perseverance can outshine privilege. Below stairs, endings and beginnings intertwine. Carson, the ever-faithful butler, finds his strength failing. His retirement is bittersweet, for his life has been built upon service. Yet he leaves knowing Downton will continue, carried forward by those he trained. Mrs. Hughes, now Mrs. Carson, steps into her new role as wife and companion, her warmth balancing his formality. Daisy dreams of education and independence, ready to claim a life beyond the kitchen. Even Thomas, so often the schemer, reveals his loneliness and at last finds a place where he belongs, not feared, but accepted. The season feels like a series of gentle goodbyes. Every wedding, every farewell, every quiet moment at the dinner table reminds us that nothing stays the same. Yet the spirit of Downton Abbey endures. It is not only about walls and wealth. It is about people, upstairs and downstairs, whose lives are forever bound together. As the final curtain falls, the Abbey stands proud against the turning tide of history. Its legacy is not the fading echo of a vanished age, but the timeless truth that love, loyalty, and hope can outlast even the greatest changes. Downton does not end. It lives on in every heart it touched. Through 6 seasons and beyond into 2 films, Downton Abbey has carried us across the turning tides of the 20th century. We've witnessed joy and heartbreak, war and peace, scandal, and redemption. More than that, we have lived inside a world where every life, whether noble or humble, mattered. For the Crawleys, it was never just about wealth or titles. It was about holding together a family as the old world cracked beneath their feet. Lord Grantham learned to bend, Lady Mary discovered her strength, and Lady Edith claimed her worth. They began as figures bound by duty, but became human stories of resilience, choice, and change. For those below stairs, the servants who polished silver and guarded secrets, their lives shone just as brightly. Carson, ever the sentinel of tradition, taught us pride in service. Mrs. Hughes reminded us that kindness is the truest form of leadership. Anna and Bates showed how love can survive trial after trial, and Daisy revealed how even the quietest voices can grow into independence. And Thomas, once an outsider in the shadows, found what every soul longs for: a place to belong. What makes Downton Abbey unforgettable is not just its grand halls or its sweeping costumes. It is the balance of two worlds: the elegance upstairs and the labor downstairs, the laughter in drawing rooms and the whispers in servants' quarters. Together, they created a living tapestry of an age both lost and remembered. And though the series has closed its doors, the Abbey itself endures. It stands not only as a symbol of a family, but as a reminder of history itself, a bridge between tradition and progress, privilege and sacrifice, endings and beginnings. As Jim Carter's Carson might say, "Downton will go on." And as Phyllis Logan's Mrs. Hughes might whisper, "It will always hold a place in our hearts." So we leave the Abbey not in silence, but in gratitude. For every love, every loss, every moment that made us pause, smile, or weep. Downton Abbey is more than a story. It is a legacy. And like all great legacies, it will never truly fade. The world above and below stairs, where wealth and power walk side by side with loyalty and sacrifice. This is the story of Downton Abbey, a grand house that became more than stone and walls. It became the stage where lives, loves, and losses shaped an era. The story begins in 1912, with the echo of a great disaster, the sinking of the Titanic. News travels swiftly, and for the Crawley family it brings not only sorrow but also danger. Their heir has gone down with the ship, leaving the future of Downton Abbey uncertain. Without a male successor, the grand estate might fall into the hands of a distant cousin, Matthew Crawley, a middle-class lawyer who knows little of aristocratic life. This is the moment the house begins to stir with change. Lady Mary, the eldest daughter, feels the weight of expectation. Her future, once secure, is now tangled with questions of inheritance and marriage. Lady Edith, overlooked and often resentful, starts to dream of recognition. And Lady Sybil, the youngest, carries a spark of rebellion, eager for progress in a world bound by old rules. But Downton is not only about the family upstairs. Below stairs, life beats with its own rhythm. Charles Carson, the butler, runs the household with stern pride, while Mrs. Hughes, the housekeeper, balances discipline with compassion. Among the staff, stories unfold: Anna's quiet kindness, Mr. Bates' mysterious past, Thomas's ambition, and Daisy's innocence. What makes Season 1 unforgettable is the delicate dance between these two worlds, the nobility above and the servants below. Every corridor, every whispered word shows the bond between them. When scandal threatens the family, when loyalty is tested, and when love blooms in the most unexpected places, Downton Abbey proves it is more than just a home. It is a symbol of tradition, challenged by the winds of change. And as the season closes, one truth becomes clear: the world beyond the Abbey is shifting. The Crawleys and their servants are about to face a century that will transform everything they know. The sound of marching boots echoes across Europe, and soon even the grand walls of Downton cannot keep the war away. It is 1914, and the Great War changes everything. The estate, once filled with music and candlelight, now opens its doors as a recovery hospital. Drawing rooms become wards, and silk sheets give way to bandages and stretchers. Downton itself becomes a soldier's refuge. For the Crawley family, the war is no longer distant news. Matthew, once a quiet lawyer, now wears a uniform. His return to Downton is filled with both pride and danger. He carries the scars of battle, some seen, some hidden. Lady Mary struggles with her feelings for him, torn between duty, pride, and a love she cannot easily confess. And in the shadows of their romance, Sir Richard Carlisle enters the picture. A man of wealth and power but little warmth. Lady Sybil, the spirited youngest daughter, finds her calling not in fine gowns, but in nursing. And in the quiet corridors of the house, her heart is drawn toward Tom Branson, the family's chauffeur, an unlikely match that defies every rule of class. Their story whispers of a future where love might overcome tradition. Downstairs, the servants fight battles of their own. Mr. Bates faces trial and disgrace, while Anna stands by him with a loyalty that does not break. Thomas, ever scheming, finds himself tested in ways even he could not predict. And Daisy, the scullery maid, must face grief as the young men she knows go off to war and never return. Season 2 is not gentle. It is full of sacrifice and sorrow. Yet in the midst of tragedy, there are moments of triumph. Marriages, reconciliations, and the resilience of both family and staff. By the end, Downton stands altered forever. The Abbey has witnessed pain and love side by side, and as the war draws to a close, the world is no longer the same. The stage is set for a new chapter, one where hope must rise from lost joy. Joy fills the halls of Downton as wedding bells finally ring. After years of longing and hesitation, Mary and Matthew stand together as husband and wife. Their love, tested by war and pride, now seems unshakable. The estate shines brighter, as if Downton itself rejoices with them. Yet beneath the happiness, shadows quietly gather. Season 3 is a tale of contrasts, hope and heartbreak intertwined. Lady Edith, often overlooked, finds what she believes is true love in Sir Anthony Strallan. At the altar, her heart is ready, but his is heavy with doubt. His sudden refusal leaves her humiliated before family and friends, and Edith's sorrow lingers like an open wound. She longs to matter, to be chosen. Yet fate seems determined to test her strength. But the greatest tragedy comes not from broken hearts, but from the cruelty of life itself. Lady Sybil, the youngest daughter, full of fire and compassion, gives birth to her first child. For a moment, joy is unmeasured. The Crawleys gather in celebration, and then, in a heartbeat, everything changes. Complications strike, and Sybil dies in the very home that raised her. The family, once bound by confidence and pride, now trembles under grief. Cora weeps for her daughter. Tom clutches his newborn, and even Carson lowers his guard in sorrow. Downton Abbey, once a place of festivity, becomes a house of mourning. Yet amid the sadness, new voices join the story. Cora's mother, Martha Levinson, arrives from America, spirited, bold, and unafraid to challenge the old ways of England. Her presence brings a clash of cultures, tradition against modern freedom. She reminds the Crawleys that the world is shifting, whether they welcome it or not. By the season's end, Downton stands at a crossroads. The Crawleys have celebrated love and endured unspeakable loss. The servants below stairs continue to whisper, scheme, and dream, even as tragedy presses down on the house above. And though the walls remain tall and proud, there is a crack that can never be fully mended. Silence hangs over Downton. The halls that once echoed with laughter and wedding bells now carry the weight of mourning. Matthew is gone, taken suddenly in the prime of his life, and Lady Mary is left shattered. She walks the corridors like a ghost, her grief hidden beneath a mask of duty. For a time, it feels as though Downton itself has dimmed, its grand windows unable to let in the light. Yet, even in sorrow, life presses forward. Mary slowly rises from her despair, step by step. Her return is not sudden but steady, marked by small acts of courage. Taking interest in the estate, facing suitors with guarded strength, and proving she can stand not only as a daughter, but as a leader. Her pain sharpens her, and through it, Mary begins to reclaim her place in the world. Meanwhile, Edith's path twists into scandal. Her love for Michael Gregson pulls her into dangerous territory. His disappearance leaves her carrying his child, a secret she must hide from the sharp eyes of society. Edith's storyline becomes one of quiet defiance, choosing love and motherhood even when the world condemns her for it. She too begins to grow into someone far stronger than before, though at a heavy cost. But the darkest story belongs to Anna. In one of Downton's most harrowing moments, she suffers an assault at the hands of a guest. The pain is kept behind closed doors, hidden even from Bates. What follows is a storm of secrecy, guilt, and silent endurance. Through Anna's suffering, the audience sees how fragile even the safest places can be, and how strength is often born in silence. Below stairs, life continues to shift. Thomas plots as ever, weaving schemes to secure his place. Daisy matures, her innocence tempered by the realities of adulthood. And in the quiet corners of the kitchen and servants' hall, friendships deepen, showing that even in darkness, bonds of loyalty can steady a wavering heart. Season 4 is about survival. It begins in mourning, journeys through scandal and secrecy, and ends with a fragile sense of renewal. Downton Abbey has endured tragedy before, but now the question lingers. How much more change can these walls withstand? The new century marches forward, and its footsteps grow louder inside the walls of Downton. Change is no longer a whisper. It is a force that cannot be ignored. The labor movement gathers strength, women demand greater freedoms, and the aristocracy feels its grip on the old world slipping. For the Crawleys, every dinner table conversation is no longer just about family. It is about survival in a society being remade.